Hi, everybody, and welcome to Book Talks with Sandy. I am so delighted to have you here with us on this amazing Tuesday afternoon. It's almost the end of the month. And yes, we have been having a phenomenal three events of our book talk our book tour with some amazing authors. Listen, you all, tonight is going to be fire. It is going to be phenomenal. I just know it. We're feeling it. We've been anticipating it. And so I've got a co host with me on tonight. I really felt like it was necessary. And so without further ado, I'm just going to first bring on my co host. Okay. And we're going to introduce him to you. We're talking about the phenomenal, yes, Pastor Minister Lee Wright, #1 best-selling publishing author. He is of My Walk Past Hell, Volume 2, The Men, and with visionary, the author, Dr. Yolanda Jerry. It was her My Walk Past Hell, Volume 2 Men version. And he has a new release coming up, I Am Still Here. Listen, welcome. Thank you for being my co-host on tonight. How are you doing?
I am blessed and highly favored, Dr. Sandy. How are you this evening?
I am great. Listen, I am totally anticipating. I'm sitting on the edge of my seat. Our guest on tonight, thank you for being my co-host for tonight. We are going to have a phenomenal group of men, and I just really felt like this was a great opportunity to have a male counterpart with me. My husband is working, and he was my first choice because he's my husband, and because he's working. And I said, "Oh wow, let me just Lord dropped you in my spirit." But let's welcome our audience. Our audience, welcome to Book Talks with Sandy. It is our weekly segment program where we have a platform for authors, visionary authors, and where the visionary authors will bring on their contributing authors to share their stories, their short stories of pain to purpose, triumph to, from their tragedies, tragic stories to victorious wins. And most of all, I tell our audience, this is a platform for you. Why do I say that? I say it simply because you just might be looking for a good book to read. I am Sandy Sanders. I am your host, and we have been having some phenomenal speakers, book tours, these past couple of shows that we've had. Minister Lee, we've had kicked it off on Saturday was Pastor Geneva D. Ashley. Her book is called Shatter to Shine, Dealing with Domestic Violence.
Yes.
And then came on Sunday, it was Sunday, which our second leading up was Coach Crystal Cunningham out of Atlanta, and her book, No More Residue. And so tonight, that book deals with women that have dealt with alcoholism, drug addiction, incarceration, you name it. And so this was a new release. The book was published a couple of years ago. And so we had her on. And so tonight, culminating our author tour, we do an author tour here on Book Talks every quarter. And God just planned this out. And I love this woman. She is phenomenal. But say hey to our audience before we go ahead, and we want to bring on Dr. Monique. I want to get them prepared as they get ready to come on and say hi to us. Go ahead and say hello to our audience.
Hello to all of you that are tuned in tonight. We know that this is, again, as Sandy says, it's going to be phenomenal. I'm excited about the guests and the cast that are about to be a part of this. It's phenomenal to have Black men doing amazing things. You're going to see some of that in the broadcast tonight.
Absolutely. And without further ado, we're going to bring on the visionary author of this amazing book. We are talking about, you all have seen the blast. It is Black Men, the Book Anthology Project. Visionary author, Dr. Monique Fleming, forwarded by Dr. Matthew L. Stevenson III. The contributing authors are going to be with her on tonight. And without further ado, yes, my lady, if I could roll out the red carpet for her, I would. And there she is. Hello.
Hello, Sandy. So good to see you. Oh my goodness.
Yes, ma'am.
And
Yes,
good evening, Lee. Good to see you as well. Nice to meet you. We're so excited about being with you guys on tonight.
Hello,
yes,
Dr.
indeed.
Monique.
Yes, indeed. And without further ado, we're going to bring your contributing authors that are waiting anxiously
Oh,
and
good.
patiently in the green room. And so we're going to go ahead and bring them on. We have the phenomenal, yes, Pastor Marvin Kirkwood, Pastor Robert H. Marshall, yes, and the phenomenal Patrick Tyler. And then we also have Coach Ev himself, yes, indeed, and Mr. Andre Falks. Welcome to Book Talks with Sandy.
Woo!
This this is our platform for authors and contributing authors. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
I'm I'm so glad they're here. Yes.
Well, we're glad you're here. We are super, super glad you're here. We want to take a moment and let our audience know, those of you that are wanting to know exactly where we are broadcasting from, we are broadcasting from our Coffee Conversations with Sandy's page, which is the platform to empower you, to inspire you, to encourage you, as well as this platform. So that's where you'll see us live at. But now we are on YouTube. YouTube
Woo.
channel is Coffee Conversations with Sandy. Hey, I'm kind of climbing the ladder here and I'm so excited. So if you would like, we are simultaneously live on our so yes, if you those of you that are watching, I would love for you to go to our YouTube channel, Coffee Conversation with Sandy, and do subscribe, because not only are you seeing this, but you'll get the notification whenever we do go live. You will get the notifications. Well, Dr. Monique, the last time you were with me, we were talking about a book with women and the five daughters in the Bible. And listen, you had one that you were just, and you birthed out, and we were waiting. I could not wait for this book. Talk to me. The brilliant minds of Black men. Ha-
Yes, Sandy. I'm excited. Thank you again for having me. You're right. The last time I was on, we were just finishing up an anthology with women. And I told you then I was getting ready to do this anthology called Brilliant Minds of Black
Yes,
Men. I felt like, in my spirit, I'm a minister of the gospel. So, I'm going to go there. In my spirit,
yes,
I felt like our Black men needed their
Mm,
voices to be heard. And I felt like oftentimes the narrative of Black men is penned by somebody other than themselves. It could be a Black
mm,
woman, it could be someone else, and very rarely do we hear their voices. And I really wanted to allow men of all different backgrounds to speak, to share, and to be able to bring to life who they are, because I believe that inside the mind of a Black man lies brilliance, and inside the mind of a Black man, I believe, is where we will find our solutions. That is the
that's
birth of
good.
the project. And then these gentlemen, they were gracious enough to collaborate with me and join and link arms with me and produce this thing. So it came out of my spirit, and now it is actually in manifestation, which is so exciting.
Yes, you're a woman of leadership. You are an international speaker, leadership and transition strategist, an author as well. You're an international author, I think several. And this book, we would need to congratulate you. This book went number one bestseller, as well as being an international, as well as being a number one author, I believe, category as well. What were the categories that you became number one in? Are
Let's see,
you working?
we were number one in African literature, and then we were also a bestseller in spiritual self-help.
Wow. Wow. That is just phenomenal.
I
Well,
know.
yeah, yeah. How are you feeling, lady? Listen, authors and co-authors, y'all give us a second, because you are taking that lead, and yeah, there are women that have the all male anthologies. I've had the privilege, as you're meeting Lee. Lee is part of Dr. Yolanda's My Walk Past Hell.
Yes.
You're coming from it, and when you talk about the brilliant mind, the mind, and the how God led you into knowing, as a man thinketh, so is he. And I know that's not necessarily gender, but we're going to be at gender tonight. Come on, talk to me about that. How God just pointed you in that direction again. You have a son. I have a son.
I do. I
Yeah,
do. I have a son. He has a brilliant mind. Our
yeah,
son is 11 years old. He has a brilliant mind. And once again, I believe paving the way for not only my son, but the sons that are to come. I
yeah.
believe that this book has solutions for this generation, and this book houses solutions for generations to come as well. So it's not just for men to read this book, but
Yeah.
women, children. This book is written to everybody because once again, it is taken from the narrative of men. And
Hmm.
once we are able to allow our men to speak and to give them a voice, I'm always talking about
Yeah,
unmuzzling women, because women need
yeah.
to unmuzzle. But I began to get quiet and realize that guess what? The women are muzzled, but the man is muzzled as well.
Yes, yes. Well, we're going to hear from some phenomenal men that not only I believe that they're representing thousands of men, millions of men all over the world. I want to start with Pastor. Let's go ahead and introduce now. There's probably some other pastors, but I got Pastor Marvin Kirkwood here. Pastor Kirkwood is the planter and future facilitator of Contagious Life Church in Kansas City, Missouri. Welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you. It is an honor and a privilege to be on tonight with you. We thank God for Dr. Monique Flemings, her expertise, her wisdom, her vision, and it's truly an honor to be a part of this anthology project. A blessing.
Great. Awesome. And welcome aboard. We'll be getting into some dialogue in just a moment. Our very next person is Mr. Andre Fawkes, who is a high school educator in Chicago, an author of Faith in Action, Visionary Leadership in Sports, Business, and Ministry. Come on and say hello to us.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for having me on. It was an awesome experience with this book, and hopefully it gets. I know it gets into the right hands, and it was an honor to be a part of it.
Awesome. Yes, indeed. Well, we look forward to hearing more that you have to say. Yes, and Patrick Tyler. Patrick Tyler is with us on tonight. He is a husband, a father, pastor as well. Y'all, I got my little cue cards. Y'all know how you have cue cards in your TV studio and all of that. I have a cue cards over here. Mortgage financial advisor, premarital counselor, and couples ministry leader. Come on and say hello to us.
Hello. Thank you, Ms. Sandy, for the opportunity. Nice to meet you,
Yes, sir.
Lee Wright, and thank you, Dr. Monique Flemings. Thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to the conversation tonight. And just thank God. This is my first project, and I'm already working on the actual book for my son.
Hey, listen, I believe Lee could relate to you. Lee, just let him know when a book is in you, a book is in you, right?
That is so true, Sandy. When a book is in you, a book is in you, and you just got to get it out. Even I'll just submit my first project, my Walk Past Hell, Volume 2, The Men, was my first. It was an anthology, and I got together with some other brothers, and we came together and bared our soul. But I realized there was more to get out, and so I continued to write, and that led to my second project. So I understand exactly where you are, my brother, and I want to encourage you.
So you're not alone, for sure, for sure. Let's see, who else do we have? And we have a native of Lithonia, Georgia, yet a current resident, of Chicago, Illinois. We're talking about, yes, Mr. Evan S. Brown, affectionately known as Coach Ev. He's an entrepreneur, mastermind. Come on and say hello to us.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for having me a part. This project was probably the most impactful thing I've been a part of in a long time. So thank you, Dr. Monique, for the opportunity, and thank you guys for having me on for the discussion.
Absolutely. And last but not least, we have Mr. Andre. Mr. Andre, I'm going to pull your information up here. I want to make sure I got it here. I know I do. Just bear with me here for 1 second. I've got all of these are sitting up here. But let's see, where are you?
I think you're looking for Robert.
Yes. Let's see. Do I have Robert Marshall Jr.? Yes. Is he with us?
He sure is.
I am.
Okay, Robert, there you are. Has been highly influential and sought after speaker for over 15 years. He has captivated, challenged, and inspired audiences from around the world to think big, but to dream bigger. Come on and say hello to us.
Hello, everybody. Dr. Monique, thank you so much for allowing me to be a part of this amazing project. Sandy and everyone else, I'm just so honored to be a part of this work that really embodies the spirit, the essence of manhood, masculinity, which is really a dying art, which is a dying thing in our generation. I talk about all the time, coming out of the 70s, the 60s, 70s, 80s, the 90s, where the masculine voice was really silenced by a whole lot of socioeconomic things within the Black community. And
Yes.
so to be a part of this project that is the emergence of that voice once again in our community it's refreshing, it's honoring, and I'm just excited to be a part of this body of work that will continue to speak for generations to come.
Well, come on and let's stay right there in that vein where you are of being the voice. And Lee, if you have something to go ahead and interject right there, because he's talking about being that voice now, and as a young man in our generation, do you have a question you might want to ask?
Yes, sir. And I'm going to put that question right to Robert if I can. So, as a young person, and you're growing up, I don't know what your age is. You look younger than me, so I'm gonna call you a young person. All right, I'm gonna call you a young person. So
I'll take it.
As a young person, what would you do, to be able to reach those people that are your age group and below? Because we find, especially in today's society, that our people, African American men, are living a crazy life. And when my town last night on a Monday evening, there was a shooting, and we need to find ways to reach our young people. So is there something that you have written or something that you have overcome that you can encourage a young person to say, hey, there is a better way?
Well, actually, thank you for asking that question. So, what I do is I help boys and men overcome adverse childhood and traumatic life experiences. This anthology project is, I think, officially number seventh book that I've put out, been a part of. And what I do is through my workshops, through my books, through my lectures, I provide a safe space for men to begin to re-engage with definitions that have defined them. I give them the space, the platform, and the environment in which they can delve into toxic and unhealthy frameworks that have formed their masculinity, their identity, and also address their traumas. So what I in that space, I give them permission to, number one, tear down any definitions or any things that don't serve them well, and then give them back their power to choose who they decide to be. And so, how do I continue to reach those young people? I think number one, um, this generation recognizes and responds to authenticity. They respond to authenticity regardless of your race, class, socioeconomic status. They respect and they honor those who are real, raw, and relevant. And so, in all of my communications, what I desire to do is to provide real, raw, and relevant content for young men, so that number one, they can see that I'm touchable. If I would put on my pastor hat for a little bit, I think what makes Jesus relevant to this generation is that he is the God that wraps himself in flesh to come dwell among us. He is the incarnate God. And so that is my approach. And I ask myself, what does it mean to put on flesh? What does it mean to show my own humanness, my own flaws, my own shortcomings, my own traumas, so that they can see, almost like what Jesus did with Thomas. Thomas, see the nails in my hands. Thomas, see what I've been through. You put your fingers there, put your hands there. And so
Yep.
when you enable them to touch you, when you enable them to for them to see your hands and to see your wounds and to see your scars, you realize that your scars serve a purpose. You realize that your scars are a testament that I survived, that I'm still alive. And though you may see my wounds, I'm here, I'm relevant, and I have a story to tell. And once you start sharing your story, it provides a safe space for them to open up, to share theirs. And I do this, and I have the privilege of doing this literally around the world, with men from all walks of life. And it's amazing how men will begin to talk when you show them I bleed too.
That's good.
I got to interject because first thing I wrote was scars and wounds. Gentlemen, how important is it, yes, for men to show their scars and their wounds and talk about it? I want to start with Patrick, Minister Patrick. How important is it? Because here's the thing is that if you walk around wounded, are you able to serve properly? And so how important is it for you to reveal the fact that you've got some scars and wounds?
I think it's very, very important. And it's a key to our communities, especially as men, to be vulnerable, to be open enough to share that we've been there, and that gives the opportunity for us to help pull someone through. If we stay in the dark and if we keep it in the dark, it does not help younger men, young people. It does not help the community. So it is key to bringing the community where we need to take the community.
Awesome. Dr. Fleming, I just want to share with our audience, and I see Pastor Kirkland shaking his head. And so, I want you to chime in. But I want our audience to really, first of all, I want you all to get the book. If you have not purchased this book, you need to have this book. When I began to prepare for this, I'm telling you, this is a God move. And I tell you why, because of all of the things that have happened in our world just in the past 12 months, say less than 12. Let's talk about first 6 since January to now in the Black community. And one of the things that I read in the description is how Dr. Monique wrote. She says, "We are forever grateful to that teenage woman who pulled out her camera and captured the horrific modern day lynching for the world to see." And do you feel that we have healed from that trauma? Because you call it what it is. And I didn't, when I was reading this, I was like, oh my goodness, I didn't think that we experience real life trauma, but you've identified it. Now that you've identified it, it's kind of like surface in our mentally. So, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Come on, we need to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, you know we need to talk about it. So to answer your question, as a Black race, no, we have not healed from our trauma, period. Okay? That's the first thing. When we had this episode, this traumatic episode to play out for the world to see, it was our lives all over again. The stories that we grew up with, the stories that our fathers told us, our grandfathers told us, it is played out for the world to see. And it did trigger some things in us, as a Black race. But no, our trauma is there for our race. And at the hem of that is the trauma for our Black men.
Yeah.
The trauma for our Black men. And so, yes, this book is to help bring some healing, some language, some dialogue to that trauma that is always there. We are people that live with trauma. It is always a baseline. We can't get away from it. We can't get out of our skin. So it is always there. It is always the back of our mind through conversations, wherever you go. I don't care how many degrees you have. It is always in the back of your mind how you measure up. I have 4 earned degrees. And in the back of my mind, it is still there how my counterparts see me and do not see me equal just because of the color of my skin.
Because the color of your skin. Yes, yes. Come on, Dr. Marvin, go ahead and share with us. You're acknowledging what we're talking about here. We've opened up this dialogue, and Pastor Lee, if you will, I want to, before you do, I want to say hey to all of our people on Facebook and YouTube. Thank y'all for hanging out. We could not do it without you. The amazing, the phenomenal. Yes, Pastor Sonia Smith, all the way. I believe she's in Chicago too. Isn't she in Chicago, Pastor Wright?
That's my babe. That's where she is.
See, that's why I had to do that. Dr. Yolanda, Jerry, and gentlemen, you are being watched all the way out of the UK. Dr. Nicole, yes, Dr. Nicole D. Roberts is watching us from the United Kingdom. I believe it's probably about 10 or 11 o'clock there tonight already. And Dixie Williams, thank you for tuning in all the way from New York. Dr. Renee Mentor, thank you so much for being here, Dr. Yolanda, Jerry, and those of you that are watching, and our ambassador for Book Talks with Sandy Coffee Conversations is Brenda Moultrie. So I'll be getting to y'all in just a minute, but listen, I know you got your pads and your pencil. Oh my goodness. Come on, Pastor Kirkland.
Yes, I strongly agree and believe that men who have went through a great deal of trauma and wounds, I teach that a silent father is just as worse as an absent father. That a lot of times, that because men have went through trauma and they haven't healed from the wounds, we remain silent on certain issues. There's a muzzle on our mouths. So this book has provided the space and even the recipe for men to heal. I talk about in my chapter, Free from the Trap, and oftentimes because of generational curses, and because of what sometimes our fathers didn't do, what they did do, what has happened to men. They have been trapped in a closet. They've been trapped in financial insufficiencies, spiritual dogma, religious dogma. And now it's time for the Black man, to arise and reemerge and to open up his mouth and to declare not only the works of God, but to release his brilliance, because the nation needs it. The Bible says that the earth is waiting for the manifestation of the sons and daughters of God. And I believe that there is a need for sons, men, to arise from their places of being trapped and trauma, and to speak. And this is why this book is the recipe for healing, or creates the space for men to have an opportunity to begin to release and to fill those voids with the testimonies and the knowledge and the wisdom of other Black men. I also believe that this book provides men an opportunity to receive from other men. That sometimes it's not popular to submit yourself, to allow yourself to be vulnerable. But this book shows the vulnerability of men who have went through various trials and tribulations, who have went through trauma, wounds, stories, and overcame them. And so I'm excited because I'm part of something that is going to help not only preserve the future, but as Andre Falk said on the call the other day, legacy is not something that you leave, not something that you leave with a person, but it's something that you leave in a person. So this book is something that we're leaving in generations, so that men from years and years to come can arise and have a platform to share their truth.
I think you're muted.
Muted, Dr. Sandy.
You saying something good, girl. We can't hear nothing you saying.
I was like, yes, that was good. I wrote down preserve a future. Listen, I was just like, oh my goodness. Because see, you all, I have 3 grandsons. I have 3 grandsons, and I am a mother of a black son. And so not only do I have my own son, who is a single father and who's doing the very best that he can. Thank God he is where he is. But, a lot of mothers don't have that now. They don't have that as a testimony. But my concern is about the future of my grandchildren. That is where my heart is. I'm a 61-year-old woman, and that's where my heart is. So come on, Mr. Falk, share with us. We're talking about and picking up where Pastor was talking. He says silent fathers are just as bad as absent. Then he's talking about preserving a future. What is your contribution? What we're talking about? Yeah, where we are now. But just go ahead and share your heart.
Yeah, so I think I love what uh, Pastor Marvin was talking about with and Robert was talking about with trauma. I think for me, trauma not dealt with is like in the social media world today, we talk about all this mindset things and
Yeah.
having a millionaire mindset and building legacy and all that. But if you have undealt with trauma, I liken it to trying to cook in a dirty kitchen. Eventually, something's going to come into what you're trying to build from that dirty kitchen, which is the trauma. So I think that as long as we suppress that trauma and we don't talk it out, or we don't have a safe space to feel comfortable to do that, I think that it's going to be very difficult for us to establish and build legacy on a sure foundation. I think that it begins with your mindset first. That's what I talk about in my chapter. So yeah, I'm thinking generations. I think it begins with your mindset first. I don't think it's all about. I think starting off with monetary things, real estate and what have you to pass down should come a little bit later. Because if you don't deal with your mindset, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to build anything. You can only get what you can believe that you can get ultimately. So I believe that with that undealt with trauma that we do have in our community, from having absentee fathers to having fathers that are present and that are silent, like Pastor Marvin was talking about, to having just so many things going on in our community. I think that without having safe spaces and having books like our book to really discuss those things and really even just help you to acknowledge that, yeah, I'm actually dealing with this. It's funny how sometimes when you read a book or just have a conversation, it clicks with you that I'm really internally dealing with this, but I don't have the language to voice what I'm dealing with. And I think that our book is going to help provide language to what a lot of Black men are dealing with, that we don't really have the language to voice, or we might even ignore it. And that could be even worse, because what you ignore and what you don't address, you can never fix.
That's good. That's good. Come on, Coach Ev, pick up right there. What's on your heart?
I love what Andre just said about the language. One of the things that I can articulate and identify in my own journey of life is that when there were things that I could not do, it was typically from a lack of language, because language came first, resources, a plan of action, all of that came on the back end of having language. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so excited about being a part of this project, primarily from the language standpoint, because I do believe that us penning our stories, telling our truths, and kind of calling a spade is really removing the excuses that anybody that reads it could ever come up with as to why they cannot. This book is filled with stories of overcomers from different things, from left to right, and so I'm excited about being a part of that group where I can say, hey, you know what, I penned something, I've been a part of a project that really just removed the excuses, because my chapter is called I'm Playing the Hand That You Were Dealt. It's just a reality. Hey, we all were dealt an unfair hand. As Dr. Monique mentioned, she's got 4 earned degrees, but people only see her first by the color of her skin. They don't even look at the credentials at the end of her name. And as Black men, we got to accept the fact that, hey, we're dealt typically the bad hand. But it's all about what we choose to do with it. And we can do something with it, but we first have to sometimes remove those excuses. Hey, you know what? Yes, we've got trauma, but what are you going to do about it? Yes, we grew up in broken homes, but what are we going to do about it? Because we cannot allow those things that once crushed us to stop us there. Because at that point, it becomes nobody's responsibility but your own, because we do have the power to shift and adjust our lives as much as we need to, but we've got to be willing to get some language, and most importantly, remove those excuses.
I love it. Come on, Mr. Robert, you wanted to piggyback in there.
I wanted to piggyback off of what Andre and actually what Coach Ev both said. One thing that I'm excited about this work, because we are the ones that wrote the book, right? And so what I am looking for, and I think Andre, as most people don't know about me, I'm also an educator as well. Previously, I served as the Dean of Retention and Operations at Moody Bible Institute. And one thing that I'm really excited about this project is from our pen to the next generation's ears. How do we begin to mobilize and really activate and create a cultural context where we actualize and we demonstrate the wisdom and the knowledge that is in this book? And to piggyback with what Coach Ev was talking about, as far as we're dealt the bad hand, we're dealt with the bad. We have to basically deal with the hand we've been given. You know, we all have traumas, and one of the first things that I think that we have to start doing, and I teach this in many of my courses, we have to teach not only this generation of men, but also the ones that are coming up, because the life expectancy of Black boys now is even less than many of ours. And so they're dying at 15, 16, 17, 18. I just had one of my cousin's sons who was 18 today get shot and killed. And so this is the reality of not of the generations to come, X, Y, Z, and all the other letters, right? Those who are coming behind us, they don't see a tomorrow. They don't see a future. They see if they make it to 18, they are doing well. They're doing well for themselves. So I'm excited to see how we actualize this. But one thing that I do teach, and I talk about in many of my workshops with men in general, what holds us back a lot of times is the bitterness from having to start at the bottom. The bitterness and the Bible says that a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. It was never God's intention for us to have to struggle and start from the bottom. We were supposed to be able to stand on the foundation, on the ceilings of our forefathers. And many of us, they didn't have anything to give us but debt, problems, and trauma, transgenerational trauma. And so to begin that process, to get through that transgenerational trauma, we, number one, have to begin to accept apologies that we will never get. We are waiting.
Say that again.
We have to begin the process of accepting apologies that we will never get. Tyler Perry coined a statement that I use all the time. He said, unforgiveness is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. When I am talking to male survivors of sexual trauma, or that is one of the first things, because the truth is the people that hurt you, the people that are in control of systems and structures and whatever else that keep us down, that keep killing us, that keep our brilliance, that try to kind of put a lock on our brilliance and stigmatize us. Guess what? They don't care. They don't care. They're not in our communities. They're making money off of our communities. And so what we have to do in order to move forward, we have to begin to accept apologies that we will never get, because the unforgiveness, the bitterness, the stuff that is in our heart holds us back. It holds us back, and it keeps us, it blocks and it hinders the flow of creativity, the flow of passion, the flow of all of those amazing things that flow through us. It's held captive by our context and by bitterness, and having to live through what should have never been our story from the beginning. And as we trudge through that trauma, all traumatic situations, right? Many of us, we have the same stories, just in different contexts, right? The same stories coming through poverty, coming through trauma, coming through a lot of those, those trudges in the crunches of life. And we do have to begin to accept apologies so that our wounds can begin to heal, so that we can emerge and our brilliance can be felt. And I'm really looking forward. And that's why I was excited to be a part of this book, because I really believe that this project is the catalyst for us to start creating a language to influence universities, to influence teachers, to influence all these other spaces with this language, so that we can pass it down to the people who can't breathe.
My co-host, Minister Lee, come on and chime in there, because I gotta breathe. I have to breathe, because this is what happens when you get in the space of brilliance. And that's what That's what you've done, Dr. Monique. You've placed us in this think tank. Tonight, Book Talks with Sandy has become the think tank. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
And I'm just at come on, Lee.
This is amazing. I feel encouraged and empowered again because I'm hearing such brilliance coming from my brothers. Understanding that all of us, though we've come from different places, though we have grown up in different situations, we still share a common theme, a common thread. The fact that we are all and on this broadcast African American men, and of course our women, and because of that we are unfortunately, as you said earlier, dealt a particular hand that we all have to deal with. I believe it was Coach Ev. I believe in your chapter, I got a glimpse of it. You made a reference to a spades game, if I remember correctly. And those of us who play spades, we understand, how many books you got. I got 4, I got 5, but I'm one of those ones that when they ask me how many I got, I throw that possible in there. I got 4 and a possible. I got 5 and a possible. Because if I can make that possible work, we can do some things. If I can make that possible work, the team that we're going against might have issues. But I think we and the African American community, as you said, have been dealt a hand that we have to play. I'm a huge sports fan, and I was watching Shannon Sharp the other day, and he said something that jumped out at me that was so powerful that it was something in the back of my mind I knew, but I'd never heard it spoken. And what he said was, he was talking to his co-host Skip, who was his course Caucasian American, and he was talking about Black men in America and people of color, and the fact that people of color in this country are the only people that the government has to write an amendment for. The only people that the government has to write an amendment for. You got to have an amendment to drive. You got to have an amendment to write. You got to have an amendment to vote. You got to have an amendment to go to a certain school. All this has to be an amendment by the government. And he said, we only want the rights that you get automatically. But yet we have to fight for them. There has to be an amendment for us to be on an equal playing field. And that has got to change. And so I am thankful to you for the chapters that you have written. And I have not gotten to all of them, and I intend to, because I got the book now. I got it. And I'm going to get to the rest of the chapters. But I am encouraged by what I am hearing on this evening from our brothers. And I want to also encourage you, because your voices are powerful. I'm sitting here as a co-host tonight, but I have sat in your chair, being interviewed, and have to talk to people and be transparent and show those scars, and knowing that someone who reads your chapter, someone that knows you, that reads your chapter, might be amazed at something that you've experienced or something that you've overcome. And I know it becomes difficult to be transparent, because you're like, I don't know if I want people to know that part of me. I don't know if I want people to understand that I've been through that.
Yeah.
But if you can, and when you do, it's transformational, not only for you, but for the reader. And I just want to encourage you, because now that it's out there, please understand, my brothers, it's your truth. Okay. It is your truth. It may not be the truth of the person that you may have mentioned in your chapter, but it is your truth.
Yes.
Someone else may be offended, and that's okay. This is your truth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. And even what you said, and I just had to chime in here.
Oh, go ahead.
Minister Wright, when you said that we are the only race of people that have to have amendments. Well, as a historian myself, we are the only race of people that are presently in America that did not choose to be here, right? We were one of the only ones that did not choose to be here. and have contributed the most to the upbuilding of this country, this nation, and still are fighting for rights that should have been given a long time ago.
Absolutely.
So yes, sir.
Oh my goodness. Listen, let me see. Am I on mute? No, I'm not. Okay. Dr. Monique, this book is phenomenal. Those of you that are tuning in and have shared, tonight is culminating our book tour. And God just kind of sent the authors that he just formulated this. A lot of times when I have a book tour, it's quarterly, and we have a couple of authors come through. Dr. Monique has come on and shared with us, but God he not only just brought a single, he brought anthology projects this time. And I am just, Pastor Kirkland, I didn't have anything to do with all that. Just, yes. And this is what has happened because he knows, he's all knowing. And he knows what we need to talk about. He knows. And so, Dr. Monique, first, I want to say thank you for reaching out. And yes, and this is, you're culminating our book tour. And what an amazing way to do it. I want to share with our audience, and then I want to, those of you, again, if you would like to know more about this book, it's called Brilliant Minds of Black Men. The visionary author herself, which is, she's up in that corner there, but you see the flyer, is visionary author Dr. Monique Flemings, and the men that are part of this anthology book project, Pastor Minister Patrick Tyler. We have Evans S. Brown, Coach Ev, Walter V. Williams, Gerald Pace, Robert Marshall, Pastor Marvin Kirkland, and Mr. Andre Fox. Listen, you all, as she has written, I love it how how you penned here. She says, we are forever grateful. Oh, no, I read that one already. But our healing is forever delayed by white supremacy, freely executing Black people in the church or grocery store, and live to be celebrated. Live to have a meal, just live. Yet it is another tell me what that word is. I can't stain on our soul of Black people. The urban disparities from a lack of educational opportunities, violence, and poverty plague our communities and engulf the next generation. You're speaking about things that have actually happened just very recently, and here the book is coming out. Go expand on that, how you're saying our healing is forever delayed.
Definitely. We talk about that trauma that we've been talking about all evening. And yes, my writing is very poignant in this particular book. I had some things I needed to get off my chest as well.
Yeah.
As you can tell. And so in sharing that, I want people to understand that it's not something happens and then we come to a church or a rally and then it's all good. We hug and we make up and it is well. It's never well. It is never well with our soul. We are people that know how to cope. We have a coping mechanism that has been placed on the inside of us that came over from the motherland. So we know how to cope and adapt. And so we continue to watch the injustices. We continue to watch, our brothers and sisters, have to go through what is brutal while we watch, on the other hand, across the fence, people of other persuasions allowed to live. How is it that you go into a church and you shoot everybody in the church and you are allowed to live? How is it that you go into a grocery store in the middle of the day and decide that you want to go there because there are going to be people there of a certain persuasion that you don't like and care about, and you are able to live? But we know about this young man that was walking through a neighborhood with a candy bar and some Skittles in his hand, and he was not allowed to live. No. How it just doesn't make any sense. These are the type of things that we grapple with, even in our conversations, that we have to try to explain to this generations and to generations to come. It doesn't make sense to us. And so we are always in this ongoing healing process, because every time we try to bring some type of resemblance of healing, another wound is opened up. You're on mute, girl.
I'm saying exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm just saying, you are so right. And so that is why, you know, we are elated when our Black men, when our men come
Yes.
forward and take your rightful place. And we as women, and I'm seeing more and more that we as the Black female and the brown sisters, we are just saying, go.
Yeah.
We want you to share. We want you to lead. And we got your back. My prayer partner just transitioned this past week, and we had her homegoing service, and she leaves her legacy of 3 adult sons and her grandson. She has 2 grandsons and 2 little granddaughters, 3 granddaughters, and I had the opportunity to share my thoughts because she was my prayer partner. She was my dear friend, and we used to exchange pictures of our granddaughters. And but to her adult sons are men in you know, positions where now they need to move forward and share, and not just for themselves, but they've got another group of men. They got boys that they need to bring it up with them,
Okay.
if y'all understand what I'm saying, because it's not all about us, and we want to support you. We want Mr. Patrick, I you haven't I haven't called on you much tonight, but I have a question. As a thought leader, where should we, as the believers in the body of Christ, where should we ask God to lead us when it comes to young Black men? Should we start with the early childhood children? Should we start with the teens? Or do we also, and I know, or 20s and older? Where, when I ask that question, what group first comes out to you?
Wow, that's a good question. And it's kind of hard to separate the groups, because
Yeah.
I think as Black men, we need to start with all segments of our community. So whether it's the young or the teenager or the young adult, or even men, I think we need to engage. You know, the Bible shares with us that there was a group of people that unified and came together and started building a tower. And we know it as the Tower of Babel. And God himself said, because of their unity, that they were going to achieve their purpose and nothing could stop them. So he did something to break up the unity. And unfortunately, in some of the things that we have said, we didn't choose to come to this country. They brought us against our will, enslaved us, and ever since that time, we have been separated, disjointed, dysfunctional, and believe that we are, especially as Black men, that we are on an island to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But the truth is, there were some aspects in our history that we were unified. Unity brought us Tulsa, Black Wall Street, in other places, Rosewood, and so if we can, especially as Black men, realize that we're all connected, interconnected. There are forces that wants to keep us separated and disjointed and believe that we're on an island. But my chapter, I deal with the state of blendedness. And if we can just engulf and embrace that we're all blended, we're all connected one way or another. We may not have the same parents, we may not have the same mother, father, but we're all interconnected. And if we can begin to unify in our love towards one another and appreciation towards one another, then we can make a great impact to our young boys that are growing up, that are toddlers, 4, 5, 6, 7, our teenagers, or even our young adult men and men. I believe that if we can come back to a sense of community and realize and embrace blendedness with each other, and let love be the foundation of that, that I see when I look at Pastor Kirkwood, when I look at Robert or Andre or Coach Eve or Lee Wright, I don't just see another black man, but I see me in him. Mm-hmm. And because I value me, I value him. And if we can get that back into the community in a sense of unity, then we don't need the outside sources or the outside forces to validate us as a community. We can validate ourselves and we can achieve greatness as a people and as a community when we embrace blendedness and come back together.
That is very well said. Very well said. I knew you had something to say. He did. He did. He did. And thank you. I knew it. That's why I pointed the question over to you. So you're saying, listen, let's go after as many young boys as we can. No matter what age group, God will give you the anointing. I always tell them at church, listen, I give me like the little itty bitty children because I don't have that anointing with those teenage girls. So God will give you the anointing to be able to work with the little ones, the middle ones, and the older ones. Because yes, and I love it what you were saying about the unity. And as you were sharing and talking, one of the things I think is a takeaway, Dr. Monique, tonight, I feel the Lord is saying is that if we can just share our legacy, go back and share that with those little boys, that, you know, because faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by what? The word of God. And so this is their heritage. This is to know, yes, and speak the unity. No, that is your cousin. No matter what, that's your cousin. And we got, you know, this is how God raise you up in the ammunition of the Lord, you know, and recognize who he is. I love it. I love it. So yeah, making that one thing, making a commitment that you're going, men and women in the audience. I would encourage you all, those of you that have a male in your life, whether it's your brother, whether it's your cousin, whether it's your husband, your sons, not just me, but I want you to go back and look at it and look at the replay. We're going to send it out. It's going to be on a replay. Go to our YouTube channel. You can play that as much as you want. You can come to Coffee Conversations with Sandy and friends here. Share this with a male person in your life. I encourage you to do that. Yes, Mr. Lee, you guys.
Yes, Dr. Sandy. I got to bring this point. I'm always writing down nuggets. And Brother Patrick dropped a nugget, and I want to make sure that it does not get overlooked. What he said, not only to the group that's within the framework of here, but those that are listening and those that will see this later. He said, because I value me, I value him. In other words, because he values himself, he can find value in the rest of us that are on this broadcast. That is so powerful and makes a statement to our community that says, if I can value myself,
right,
then I can value my brother.
Yes.
If I can value myself, then I can value my sister. And then for those who have experienced or gone through these generational curses of domestic violence within families, you can begin to break those when first you learn to value you. And then you can value the lives of your brothers and your sisters. And you don't just see them as just a target on the street because they stepped on your shoe.
Right.
Or because they said something that you didn't like. That was powerful, Brother Patrick. I appreciate you.
Yes, indeed. I want to give Mr. Andre an opportunity to just share. Each of you will have about 2 to 3 minutes, and then we're going to be, we're on for about an hour. We got a few more. And if you do, thank you all for tuning in. Those of you that are with us, hang out with us. This is life-changing. I think this is so necessary. Dr. Fleming, thank you so much again, Flemings. Thank you again. I always share with our audience whenever God sends, when our guests that come on, I do truly believe that it's a divine. She makes an impact every time. She leaves a footprint, and she's leaving a footprint in our spirit on tonight. When this book was released, as someone has already said, brilliant minds of Black men. This book is going to be evergreen. This book will be able to be shared with generations to come. We have this book has men of different generations and different backgrounds, however, have come together to share their brilliance, their experiences, and even challenge us as the reader to take what we've learned, take what we read, and begin to implement it, as Mr. Robert has said, to implement, to bring about some results. So, a year from now, Lord willing, he has not come back to get us. 6 months from now, we need to come back and share some testimonies. Those of you that have gotten the book, let's see what, I'm all about results. I'm all about seeing what the testimonies are of some individuals that have read this amazing book. The UK is watching. I know Dr. Nicole. I know she's going to buy it. She already she's going to buy it. We want to hear what the UK is doing, because there's some Black men in the UK. There's Black. I was reading the conditions that are in Africa right now, in the Somalia and in Sudan, and there's such poverty and famine. It's famine. It has not rained in a long period of time. So our hearts not just for here, but in globally in the world. Mr. Fox, if you will, come on and share your heart. And then each of you will have a couple of minutes. I'm going to have you on single screen. We want to hear about your chapter, Dr. Monique, if that's okay. We want them to share their heart, share about your chapter. And as you're doing that, also let us know how we can follow you, where we can find you, etc. So we're going to start with Mr. Andre.
Absolutely. So, kind of piggybacking off the theme of generations. That's a part of my chapter's name. So it's called Yet. So yeah, I'm thinking generations. In the chapter, you find a lot of applicable principles that I think are important for all men, regardless of your age, to really begin to consider. I'm not quite 30 yet, but I'm still thinking about what's coming after me, my future children, my future marriage, and what have you. So I think my chapter kind of sheds light on the importance of thinking ahead, planning ahead. Why it's important to not make rash decisions today that could detrimentally impact the future of tomorrow. There's some powerful points that I put in the chapter that kind of all wraps itself around what am I doing for the next generation? What am I planning? What am I doing? Not just material things, but what principles do I have that I can leave to the next generation? Because I think a lot of times we get wrapped up in the material things, but what are the principles that you can leave to your son, to your daughter, to your nephew, to your niece? Even if you just have a business that you're going to eventually pass on to somebody that's working for you, what are you leaving them that can help them to prosper in the future? I think it's a dangerous thing to give people prosperity without principle, and unfortunately, that's what our society pushes a lot. Is here, take this money, get as much money as you can, get all the resources that you can, live your best life. That's great, but if you don't have the principles to uphold that, it's going to be very difficult for you, and it actually could make you be worse than if you didn't have as much resources and wealth as you possibly could. And so in my chapter, I kind of dive into the importance of that. I go into what I call a survivor's mindset, how unfortunately in the Black community, because we are under-resourced, not just with money, but just with family relationships. A lot of us, unfortunately, don't have relationships with our fathers, or not many of us even have a grandfathers nowadays, and how that kind of breeds a survivor mode mentality. And it's nearly impossible for you to think for the future if you're just trying to survive for today. I really dive deep into the concept of having a survivor mode mentality, and how that makes you greedy, how it makes you, grimy. You have that mindset of, I'm gonna get mine, forget everybody else. I don't care what's gonna happen tomorrow. I gotta get what I can get for today. And unfortunately, with that type of mindset, you won't be able to leave a legacy. It's impossible, because legacy is about tomorrow. It's not about today. I dive into that. And then lastly, I go into different things that I've done for myself to better improve my mindset. Because ultimately, what my chapter comes down to is shifting your mindset from what you from today to tomorrow. Stop, trying to get everything you can get for today. Stop trying to overextend what you have today and not caring about the future. If you have a vision for yourself for the future, it gets you out of a lot of snares and a lot of temptations. You won't have so many different. It just really changes your decision making if you consider the future. So that's really the bottom line of my chapter is consider tomorrow. Don't just live for today. Of course, we want to live in the moment, enjoy the moment, but consider what you're leaving the next generation, not just in money, but in principles. What can you instill in your son, your future son, or if you have a present son or daughter, or a nephew or niece or whoever you're connected to, what can you instill in them that's going to help them prosper in the future? That's kind of the baseline of my chapter. There's a lot more in it, but that's kind of the a good baseline of the chapter.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Now we're going to go ahead and bring up Coach Ev. And if you will, sir, come on and share your heart with us and about your chapter a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. My name is Evan, Coach Ev. My chapter was entitled, I mentioned earlier, Playing the Hand That You're Dealt. One of the things I know about life is that life is not fair, but it can be extraordinary. Like it's all about what you choose to stop and do. I come from a family that taught me in the beginning of stages of my life that, nothing beats hard work. And sometimes you just got to accept things for what they are. But when you're in the midst of accepting things for what they are, great change can start there. So that's my chapter. It's encouraging and pushing. It really kind of helping people walk through the steps to the fact that, okay, you know what? It's okay that I was born into unfavorable situations. It's okay that I was born into sometimes traumatic experience. It's not necessarily okay, but it's my reality. But I can and I will change it if I make the conscious decision to do what needs to be done. Now, the conscious decisions can be wrapped in so many different forms or show up in so many different layers, whether it's therapy, church, further education, but it can be done. I am still, no matter what kind of systematic or oppression, different things that are in place, with God and intelligence and knowledge, you cannot tell me and convince me that a Black man cannot be whatever he wants to be in this country, in this earth. I just believe it. I really do believe it. I'm not. I just believe it. And so that's my goal for anyone who reads this to be encouraged and know that, hey, no matter the hand that you have in your hand, you can always win. Because as the analogy that I used that Mr. Wright mentioned earlier in the game of spades, sometimes you'll look at your hand and you'll say, all I have is 3 in the possible, but you have no idea what the person on the other side of the table that God has partnered you with has for you. So it may look like you're playing by yourself, but you're never really playing by yourself. And that's what I want us to also be encouraged to remember, that you're never really playing by yourself. There's always people. There are always people that are in place that are to help you get to where you need to get, as long as you do your part. So if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me on all social networks. It's Coach Ev. I'm a small business strategist. My website is coachev.com. But most importantly, I'm excited to be a Black man that is in place to be able to encourage anyone who picks up this body of work to go forward and win with the hand they've been dealt.
Yes. Coming now is Pastor Kirkland, if he will come on and share with us your chapter. And after you, then we're going to share an announcement. And unfortunately, we had one of the authors who did have to step away. We do understand, but Mr. Tyler, and we certainly valued all what he shared with us, and we'll get his information out there as well. So come on, Pastor Kirkland, if you will, share your heart with us, sir.
My chapter is called Free from the Trap, as I spoke about a little bit earlier, Free from the Trap. And I speak about various traps. One of the traps, and pretty much what I try to target in this book, is those who are gang affiliated, those who are gang members. A lot of times, me being an ex-gang member, being in the streets of Kansas City, selling drugs, been in all kind of stuff that I was in back then, I try to reach those young guys that are gang affiliated. And I say this, one of my taglines that I say is that when you've been abandoned as a young man, you will always seek acceptance in different places. And so we basically begin to want to be accepted. So we found gangs, we found the streets, to accept us for who we are. And if the church would just open up their doors and accept young men, and not, my grandpa always told me, you got to catch a fish before you try to clean it. And oftentimes we want that fish to come in clean, to come in ready, to come in and whole. But God loves damaged goods. He loves to deal with those who's been damaged, because in the midst of being damaged, there is some good in those who have been damaged. And I talk about it in the book. I say that I was wondering, why me? No father, no education, no hope for the future. I didn't have my father, and I thought, because I had a learning disability, I didn't have any education at the point in time, I thought that I had no hope for the future. So I turned to the streets to provide some source of hope, some source of success, some source of belongability, if you will, belonging, and just partnering with people who were just like me, who thought like me, who didn't have a father, who were raised up in poverty. And so Free from the Trap not only deals with the gang member, but it deals with the church guy, the guy who has been in church and has felt trapped by traditionalism and religious dogma. Oftentimes, when you get into church and you stop dancing to their rhythm or to their music, people will disown you. They will abort you. I encourage those men and women and those individuals that no matter what, if they disown you and abort you, God has already chosen you, and He's already preordained and predestined you for greatness. And so this book is a book that deals with the anger trap. So many people are hiding behind anger, and anger becomes, the Bible talks about how when you hold on to anger, death, in the book of Proverbs, death will become your portion. And so I hope that people can let go of anger. We're so angry with what we didn't have, so angry with what mama didn't do and what daddy didn't do, that it'll make us miss the opportunity to find purpose. The Bible says that she bore Jabez in pain. His name is pain, Jabez in pain. So we strongly believe that you can find purpose in the midst of pain. And so, check out Free from the Trap. Check out the brilliant minds of Black men. You can go to my website, marvinkirkwood.com. You can find me on Instagram at Apostle Kirkwood. You can find me on Facebook at Marvin Kirkwood, or you can go to our church website, contagiousLifeKC.co. You can connect with me for speaking engagements or for any other material that I have that's going to help Black men in this generation.
Listen, y'all have to just take a breath, breathe. And you were with them for how long? How long? A month, a year, Dr. Monique?
We started this project back, I think, at the beginning of the year. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, we started at the beginning of the year, and it has been a joy. It has been a joy. We had a different, target date in the beginning, but you just have to kind of go with the flow, and readjust. This is the timing of God. Sometimes we plan things to be a certain way, but it was the timing of God for it to be released released in June. It was just the process that we had to go through, take our time. We had to take our breath sometime, because of the writing was, exposing some things. Because when you write, anybody knows, when you start to write, it starts to really pull and tug at your soul. And so, sometimes some things come up that you think that you have dealt with, but you haven't dealt with. And so that's a part of being a part of an anthology, I think, because if they had not been a part of an anthology, when those things come up with writing, we usually just stop.
Yeah.
But because we're part of an anthology, we can give you time to breathe. We got coaches, Coach Ebb is a coach. He's a writer as well, publisher. So, I got people here. We can all help each other take a breath, get back in there, keep writing. And so that's why I encourage people with anthologies, if you are a new or emerging author, or if you are an author and you haven't written in a while and you want to get back in the game, that's what Andre did. He has written before, but he got back in here, got his muscles back up, got his rhythm back, so to speak. Pastor Kirkwood, he's written before as well. And so he jumped back in. And so I think anthologies are a great way to just build some momentum.
It really is. And I want to share with our audience your expertise in this area. You definitely speak from experience and coaching and others. You have authored 19 books, including Mastering Transition, Yes, I'm Still Single, and Crushing Fear. She is the contributing author in 3 books with Dr. Cheryl Wood, legend Les Brown, who is now Dr. Les Brown. She is the visionary author of Let the Daughters Arise and Let the Daughters Arise Volume 2, anthology book projects. Both are Amazon bestsellers. And so we thank your husband for lending you to us on tonight.
Yes.
And yes, you are a wife of a tremendous supportive husband. Yes, Mr. Andrew Flemings, sir, we thank you. You
Yes.
encourage her to soar. We can see that. And that your God has given you an exceptional son, and yes, and we see he's learning to play the drums, or he has already learned. But I'm loving it. I'm thinking of doing that with my grandson. That is so amazing. Well, listen, I do want to share my screen here, and then Lee, if you want to let our audience know, Lee will be on as a guest. I believe I'll have you in July or August. I can't remember right now.
July
In
16th.
July. Yes,
I believe
I'm
it's the
still
16th.
here. You definitely want to hear his story. Have served military, and it's a story that you all want to definitely hear. But I want to share my screen. A little bit of information. Got an upcoming conference, and those of you that are looking for some speaker opportunities, we have the amazing, you all may know this lady is from Sweetie Pies. From Sweetie Pies, the show. She will be a keynote speaker at here on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, but I need you to look out for Power Up Summit. Those of you that this is a free online summit. Yes, you'll have opportunities to VIP up. That way you'll have some access to the vault of the online virtual of the summit, as well as the gala event. But Power Up Summit, the host and producer is none other than the butts in the seats queen herself. Yes, Lady Kern Cherry. And it's called Unleash Your Power, with special guest Miss Robbie Montgomery. Discover, learn, and connect at the most powerful event of the year. Go to www.powerupsummit.com. Again, that's www.powerupsummit.com. And we are also sponsored by Swag Her Magazine. Swag Her Magazine is a urban magazine that is for our Black community. Those of you that are not familiar with them, you can find them on Instagram, you can find them on Facebook, but it's Swag Her, capital Her, Swag Her Magazine. I promise you, you will find informative information, great reading, and you also find some entrepreneurs and authors and chefs and all of that that's a part of the magazine family. So we're very happy and thankful to be a part of their family. At this time, it is always my custom when we end our show to yield back and allow the visionary authors that come on our platform to just share their heart and have the last words. But leading up to that, Leo, just wanted to thank you again for being my guest host on this evening. Just wanted to have a male counterpart with us on tonight. I want to thank my husband for allowing me to do that, because my husband had to work. So my husband had to work. So I wanted him to co-host. He's never done that before. And I said, okay, come on and do it. But he, unfortunately. So thank you. And I want to thank you for your time and it's a late evening. So thank you so much. You'll be on our show. You've got a new book coming out. I'm Still Here. And you want to say hello, goodbye, and all of that good stuff before we bring on Miss Monique?
Thank you, Dr. Sandy, for allowing me the opportunity to co-host. Is phenomenal. Again, I got my nuggets written down on my paper. I've gleaned something from everyone on the broadcast tonight. And I pray that, I'm gonna be reaching out to some of y'all just to pick your brains and talk with you a little bit. Because that's what this all about. We're here to encourage and sharpen each other. And so I'm encouraged by all of your words and the stories that you've shared and the stories that I've yet to read in the book. I'm encouraged. So God bless all of you.
Absolutely. We want to thank Mr. Andre Folks for being with us on tonight. Coach Ev, thank you again. Pastor Marvin Kirkland, and yes, Mr. Patrick Taylor, who was unable to be with us. Yes, and Mr. Gerald Pace in the audience. Thank you, sir. Yeah, there you go. He's coming, giving y'all Coda's blessings to all his amazing co-authors. Thank you, sir. Hopefully you'll be able to come on with us at a later time. And yeah, we do have those of you that are watching on the Facebook page, you'll see the writers have put in their information. We'll go back and plug in those as well. At this time, I want to yield back. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, Book Talks with Sandy. We are now streaming live simultaneously on our YouTube channel of Coffee Conversations with Sandy. But I got some super news to tell you, if you have not heard, that we are now part of the CTR Media Network. That particular network that I'm now a part of is serving over 350 million homes worldwide, globally. We are ecstatic and so happy to have partnered with Dr. Tina Ramsey, and she is making all these things happen for us because y'all, listen, I don't know about all this technical stuff, but we are now on Spotify. We will be getting the permission information, legal papers to Dr. Monique. We will be getting that to you because, yes, you will be heard on Spotify. So we're excited about that. There's Amazon, Spotify, iHeartRadio. And so all of these things are happening. And all I can do is say, to God be the glory. Because when I became an author, I did not know what to do, but it was my first fruit. I said, Lord, as long as I'm doing this, hey, you're already doing a show. Kern Cracker Cherry said, you got a show. And I said, I do. She said, yeah. And so then we find out that we have, God is just gracious with the anointing and the ability. And he just amazes me every time. At this time, I want to yield back. I want to thank our guests on tonight, the authors, the visionary author of this amazing book, Brilliant Minds of Black Men, by the visionary author herself, Dr. Monique Fleming. And at this time, I yield back. And as always, guys, you know that I love you. Thank you. And if you'll come and share your heart.
Oh my goodness. First of all, Sandy, let me say thank you for having all of us. This has been a wonderful evening. I want to thank everybody in the audience. Give it up for the audience that has hung out with us all this evening. And for those that will watch this later on the replay, I want to encourage everybody to go get the book, Brilliant Minds of Black Men. Brilliant Minds of Black Men. You can go and purchase the book from one of the authors. They've shared their information on tonight, or you can go to Amazon and order it there as well. If you want these guys to come and speak, reach out to them. They are powerful presenters and speakers, and they would love to be a part of your upcoming event. Reach out to them, and we would love to be a part of your event if you want to book us as a whole. If you want to connect with me, you can connect with me at MoniqueFlemings.net. That is MoniqueFlemings.net, where you will see all the things that I do, including a new anthology project that is coming up, particularly for women leaders. If you are a woman leader, I want to talk to you and get you connected into my next anthology project, which is entitled Lioness. Yes, prayers and affirmation for women leaders. But thank you again on tonight for listening to our stories and pushing this book forward. I believe that Brilliant Minds of Black Men has started a conversation that we will continue. And so I do believe that we have left legacy in the earth realm, and that this book will not only be a book that is pinnacle for this generation, but for generations to come. So thank you again, Sandy. I'm so honored to be a part of this. Thank you to all my authors that have been a part of this project, all of the 7 men that have trusted me for the last few months to just go along with all that we had to go through to birth out this book. I appreciate each and every last one of them. And we are here because of God's grace and because of God's timing.
Absolutely. And we do want to acknowledge your forwarding author, the phenomenal, yes, Dr. Matthews Stevenson III. We want to say thank you, sir, for the forwarding, and thank you. Yes, just saying yes. You all say yes to the book. That's my signature question, but yeah, you say yes to the book. So thank you, Dr. Stevenson, for doing the forwarding, and all of the men and these powerful, great men of God who have shared in this amazing book. Well, Mr. Lee, Pastor Lee, I think it's about time to end.
It's been wonderful. It is well with my soul.
Amen. Well, all of you that are tuning in, thank you so much. And as Dr. Monique, listen, I don't know what to do with myself about right now. I got to just digress. This has been great. This has been an amazing, amazing 3 nights that we've done this month. So look for another book tour. We will be back in September. I do the weekly book interviews, but our book tour will be back quarterly in September. So look for it. It is going to be powerful. So in the meantime, you guys know that I love you. I will see you next Saturday. Okay, Lord willing. And he hasn't come back to get me. Okay. All right. Listen, take care and God bless you. Indeed, indeed, indeed. Okay. All right.